G'day everyone, my name is Tom Craig and you're listening to my podcast, The Help Side, where we speak to some of the most recognisable names in world hockey and get an insight into who they are, what they're about and what makes them tick. Now if you like what you hear, feel free to follow our socials at The Help Side on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. We'd absolutely love that. Well, it's our last episode for 2020 and we hope you're all having an enjoyable lead up to the festive season. And for you listeners locked down, especially in Europe or anyone else doing it tough at the moment, we're thinking of you. Now for the next hour and a half, you're in for a treat, and we're very excited to announce that our final guest of 2020 is one of the greatest to ever hold a hockey stick. None other than former Kookaburra Jamie Dwyer. Reading through Jamie's list of achievements, both personally and with the Kookaburras, is, to be honest, a quite fatiguing exercise, and it would take up a substantially greater portion of our time budget than we're happy with. So, among a very, very, very long list of other achievements, Jamie is a 5 times World Player of the Year, a former Young Player of the Year, has won every major and minor international competition that you can think of at least once, been to 4 Olympics, is the second most capped Australian hockey player in history with 365 games, and the leading goalscorer with 243 goals, which is 50 more goals than the next highest. Indeed, there aren't many candidates that can be universally agreed on to be in the conversation for the greatest hockey player of all time, but Jamie Dwyer is undoubtedly one of them. Now, it's easy to look at his achievements and think that things just came easy to someone as magnificently talented as Jamie. But that is frankly just not the case. For example, Jamie was 25 years old at his first Olympic Games when he rocketed to fame with the wider audience, with his gold medal winning goal versus the Dutch in extra time of the 2004 Athens Olympic Games. Before that, there is a cracking story to be heard about how this kid from country Queensland became an Aussie icon. Now, over the next 2 episodes, we'll cover a lot, from his journey to crack the team, to how he became the best player in the world, to overcoming major injuries, to dealing with team dynamics, to a blow-by-blow of that goal in Athens, and how to deal with pressure, to his take on crafting the ultimate team, to retirement, to running a successful business, and finally to where he thinks the sport of hockey needs to go in Australia. I can assure you that it's all absolute gold and you will not want to miss a single second. So let's go. Here it is, the help side with the great man that is Jamie Dwyer. Merry Christmas. Jamie Dwyer, thanks for having me.
No worries. Good to be here.
We're here in your home in Perth, and you're pretty well settled in, despite being an East Coast Australian. You're a Perthian now. You live in Perth. You're from Perth. Do you identify as a Perth person?
Yes and no. Sometimes I say I'm going home and I'm going back to Queensland because all my family's sisters and mum and dad, aunties and uncles are back there. But it's becoming more and more. I'm feeling more and more like a Perth boy, WA guy. My kids love it here. My wife loves it here, and set up pretty nice. So it's a great state to live in, a great city to live in. So at the moment, I'm happy being here, and I'm happy. My family's happy. Did
it take a while to get used to Perth, or how long?
It did, because I moved over here in '99, 21 years ago, and I just thought it was temporary sort of move just for hockey. I thought give hockey a go, see how I was going to hopefully play for Australia, and then when I stop I'll go back to Queensland. That was always my plans, but plans change, and like I said, I am very happy here, whether I'm in Queensland or whether I live in Perth. I think anywhere in Australia is really, really nice.
It's funny how that happens. I think a lot of people move over, they have that sort of idea. They come over for a bit, they eventually move home, and then all of a sudden you blink and 21 years later, as you say, you're here.
I'm not the first one, is I?
No, 100%. Was there a moment where you were like, we're just going to stay, this is it?
Yeah, there was actually. It was when my wife bought the house when I was over at the Olympics.
In 2016.
2016, we'd lost to Holland in the quarter, and then get a phone call the next day.
Welcome home present.
I'm going to put in an offer for a house, and I was a bit under the weather, and I said, okay, whatever. Next day, same time, 8 o'clock in the morning, get another phone call. Yeah, we've got the house.
That's very nice.
She bought me a present when I was away at the Olympics, and
That's hilarious.
Sitting in it.
Your wife Leonie's actually here. Is that how it went down, or what happened? Was it a complete surprise?
Not really, but not for him. He's got the videos and stuff.
Videos.
He had to sign. That was a bit of a was hard to get everything printed and stuff in Rio, I think. Sign it.
Happy days.
Yeah, but no, we're happy, and I've made a few renovations, and it's a great area. The kids are in school, sports just around the corner, and lifestyle here in Perth is quite relaxed.
Yeah, it's a beautiful home, and you're telling me you're a keen golfer. I think a lot of people who know you and know about hockey associate you with golf. I saw your second set in the back room, which is a very, very nice set of golf clubs. But your first set is at the club at Lake Carrinyup Golf Course. Spend a bit of time there.
Yeah, every Wednesday morning I try and go there. It's comp day, and try and get out there just to have a putt or a chip around during the week as well. When I'm out there, and I played golf. You know, I grew up playing golf because my dad played it and loved it. Then he injured his back and he didn't play. When I was throughout my career, I'd always watch the golf tournaments, and I'd always go and have a hit. It just made me not think about hockey or not think about the stress or whatever. I just sort of used it to get away and hit the ball, and yeah, I really enjoy it. My handicap's down to 3 point something now, and I'm getting better, so it's just nice to get out there and meet some friends and hit the ball around.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of athletes talk about having a third place or a second place, whatever, something to get away. That was always golf for you?
Yeah, for me it was, yeah. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of time, so I couldn't get away as much as what I would like, but I'd just get out there and go to the driving range, and my mind would be off things, and it was my relaxed time. So, and it still is now with work. You know, it can become quite stressful sometimes, or you're working hard, but just when I'm out there for 4 hours or 5 hours, I sort of refresh, and Wednesdays are perfect because it sort of mixes up the week.
I'm sure a lot of people would be keen to know golf and hockey are both ball striking sports, but the swings are different, and I'm sure one can impact the other sometimes, perhaps not for the best. Do you have a hockey swing now, or do you have a golf swing?
Yeah, it's a hockey swing. I think it always will be a hockey swing. When I try and have a proper golf swing, I don't hit them too well, but it's just a short game for me. When the short game's good, I score well.
Yeah.
I've always been able to hit the ball, a long way, and been able to hit it consistently out of the middle. It was just the short game, the putting, which is the problem.
Yeah, it's a nightmare for many. Let's go back then to growing up, the start of the ball striking in Rockhampton, Queensland, Central Queensland, would you call it?
Yep.
Early days. When did you start picking up sport? What was it like for you?
Small town, something about, probably when I was born, about 40,000 people lived in this town. It's the capital beef of Australia, lies on the Tropic of Capricorn, quite hot place. And it was just all about sport for me. My parents played hockey, my aunties and uncles. I was the first of 3 kids, 2 younger sisters. And for as long as I can remember, I was playing hockey, and in the winter, and I played cricket. In the summer, I tried everything. I tried golf, basketball, BMX. Everything I could possibly play. I played. Touch footy. I played footy until I was. My dad said, "Look, you're a bit too small to play footy. Maybe you should stick to touch footy." So yeah, everything, and yeah, I was handy, But coming from a small town, the world was so big back then. Moving to Brisbane was a big city, a big move. So yeah, it was a long way off, but I was just enjoyed my time in Rockhampton. A big backyard. Went out there, played cricket, hockey by myself every day, and watched a lot of hockey and cricket, and just become pretty good at that hand-eye coordination just because I was out there all day practicing.
School?
Did
you like it?
Yeah, there was no hockey at school. I didn't mind school. I wasn't, obviously, I'm not the smartest kid growing up, or still aren't, obviously, but I enjoyed school. Yeah, it wasn't, it was pretty stress-free. Primary school was great. Always looked forward to Friday afternoon when we played sport. And in high school, it was good learning, and sort of didn't prepare me for life for when I left school, but I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
Yeah, and we had an Oceania Cup in 2019 in Rockhampton. It's a brilliant place, and it was very well run, the tournament. Beautiful quality turfs, lots of crowd, big community kind of environment. Hockey big in Rockhampton, or what? How'd you fall into that?
I don't think so. I just think it was big all around country Queensland, all the like Townsville, Cairns, Mackay, Rockhampton. I just got into it because my mum started playing it at school. She loved it, and that's how her and Dad sort of met a little bit, and then it's just in the family. So I just liked hockey because it's 50% male, female. You can play it from when you're 3 years of age to you're 80 years of age. I just loved the sport. I knew the opportunities that it could lead me to travel.
Yeah.
And I was always curious about other places around the world. It's one thing I loved from a very young age was, the NBA in America, what it'd be like to go to America, or football in Europe. I was always interested about countries outside of Australia. So I knew hockey would, if I was good enough, could lead me to adventure the world.
We'll jump around a little bit here. You're a big sports fan. That's very very clear. When you were playing, did other sports influence the way you played hockey? Were you trying to pick up on things that some sports did and tried to bring them into your game?
I tried. I really liked people like Cameron Smith from the Melbourne Storm, how he approaches his game and how he speaks to the team, and just his approach. I don't know, I've never met him at all, but I look at him and he was sort of a role model. Growing up, I had people like Wally Lewis, and everyone I loved Michael Jordan as well. Obviously, his attitude, his confidence, and how he trained. I looked at those people like I guess most athletes do, and they try who they look up to, and they try and add a little bit to their game. There wasn't one particular person. I just looked and learnt from lots of different athletes around the world, and picked out the good parts of what those athletes did and tried to copy it.
That's sage advice. I like it. So we're going to go back to Rockhampton. You said that it was a family thing, hockey, and it's remained very true to this day. A couple of other big names in Australian hockey have come out of Rockhampton, and you're related to two of them by some way or another. Matt Goads, your cousin, I believe, and Mark Knowles, who is your brother-in-law. Now, what's in the water at Rockhampton?
I'm not too sure. I'm not sure at all. But it's quite an interesting story, that one. But
Which one?
Oh, all of it. Because when you go, Mark Knowles is married to my sister, who's now Kelly Knowles, and then Matt Goads, who's my cousin, his mum and my mum are sisters, is married to Jill Dwyer, who is now Jill Goads. But Jill Dwyer has no relations to me, so trying to explain that to people when I was over in Holland was pretty difficult. But I do remember back, because we didn't have AstroTurf until I was 17, 18 years of age in Rockhampton. And, juniors would play in the mornings, seniors in the afternoon, and myself and Mark Knowles were there pretty much all day. He played for a different club than me, and I remember when our parents had finished the games, they were up having a barbecue or whatever, and me and Mark were out in the field hitting hockey balls at the goal, and he was a little cheeky little fella. Very cheeky, actually, and he learned not to be so cheeky later on in life. But I remember watching him and go, he's going to be good. He's really good. And then Matt, who's my sister's, my mum's sister's son, my cousin, is he always had talent, and he had two older brothers who were also very hand-eye coordinated, and I'd like to think that I had a bit of an influence in their career and their path to play hockey, and show them that it was possible to come from Rockhampton and play for Australia and do the things that we did. And both of them had amazing careers, and I'm very proud of them.
How many years in between you and Mark?
5.
5. So probably not, it wasn't like you two were in the same junior team and two of the best players Australia's ever produced, just playing in the local Rockhampton club. Righto, and then you moved to Brisbane because that's what you do if you want to pursue your hockey. You come from country towns often and then move to a major city to train with the QAS, I believe, at that time. How was that for you?
It was probably the hardest move I think I've ever had to do, because we had such a big family, and I was one of the oldest in our family with all these younger cousins and sisters, and grandparents were quite young. And just to move to Brisbane, it was. I remember I was scared. I was really scared, but I was sort of excited on the other hand as well. But yeah, that move was probably hard, really hard. I trained with the QAS, and Greg Browning was the coach, and we had a good solid bunch of guys there. But I went into full-time work at a Lincoln. It's called Lincoln Century, which is just selling hardware goods and training full-time. And I was still at that stage where I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, at that stage I had a girlfriend back in Rockhampton. I thought either I'm going to make it, or I'm not. And when I was there for those 2 years, it was more of a feeling that I wasn't going to make it. So I trained hard. I made the Queensland Blades team, and I was lucky I got an invitation over here to Perth for a training camp in '98, I think it was. And I trained with the Australian team, Australian players, and I thought, then they're good, but I can be as good as these guys. So once I came over here on that camp, I had belief that, I'm definitely not there yet, but I can be as good as some of these players. And that sort of changed my attitude a little bit, whether I should move back to Rockhampton or stick with it. And luckily I stuck with it.
And there's a couple of things I want to pick up on that time in Brisbane. Very rarely do we have fan questions coming in before the interview, but word got out that I was interviewing you today, and a fan wrote in and asked me to ask you what your workday was like at Lincoln Century. Because apparently you're a very, very hard-working employee.
Yes, very, very hard-working. I'm not too sure about that. I think we started at about 8:30, and depending on training, they gave me a little bit of flexibility whether I trained in the morning or in the afternoon, but it was a solid 8 hours. We get a packing list, we'd have to go around and maybe get on the forklift. I didn't have a forklift license, but back then, it didn't really matter. I was picking off stock and just packing it off the list, and you throw your box on this conveyor belt, and goes down to someone to check it, and then gets sent off all around Australia and the world sometimes. But that Lincoln Century, the family who owned that were really hockey orientated family, and I remember getting in trouble a couple of times for just misbehaving with a bunch of, there was about 10 of us guys who were all just having fun in the warehouse, and we got up to some mischief sometimes, but in the end of the day I learned a lot from it, to be honest. I met these guys who were like a team. They're all from all around Australia. They're all different levels of education, and we all communicated in certain ways to get the job done. And we had the big boss who would let us know if we weren't working well, but on the other hand, when we did work well, he'd let us know as well. So it was a good experience, definitely something that I'll always remember working at that place.
And you run a business now, and you're involved with a few businesses. Would you say that like some of the learnings in how to run a business came from that time?
Sometimes. I think that sort of learning helped me more in sport than what in the business I run now, and probably what I learned in sport helps me do what I do now with JDH and other business adventures. So it's all a learning curve, and sport is very relatable to business, especially the communication side and a lot of aspects, goal setting, etc. So it's one thing I've always done well, I think, is try to learn, try to be better, whether it was in sport or outside of sport, whether it's just being a better person. My time at the Kookaburras, I look back on it and I think I could have done this better, could have done that better, and in the end that's going to make me a better father, hopefully, or a better husband, and better person.
There's a vicious rumour that I want to address about Lincoln Century. Apparently, those 8-hour workdays were broken up occasionally by a nap in the afternoon on work site. Can you confirm or deny?
Yeah, as an elite athlete, it's it's very important that you get rest and you recover well. And you can ask all the sports scientists out there these days that rest and sleep is the best recovery. So I guess you'd say I was ahead of my time 22, 23 years ago. But because we trained early in the morning, sometimes late at night, in lunch break, there was this mezzanine level where no one went up there because, so I just go up there, curl up and have a little nap on occasions. Maybe sometimes not during my lunch break. Yeah, they're probably true.
That's work-life balance, if I've ever heard it. I'm curious about, because, if you don't mind me saying, there are very few people who are in the greatest of all time debate in hockey. And it surprises me that moving to Brisbane, you were umming and ahhing about whether you would actually make it. And I remember I spoke to a good hockey coach, great hockey coach, good servant of the game in New South Wales in particular, Barry Reid. I remember he said that he'd never seen anyone dominate an under-16s tournament like he saw you do it. I don't know when that was. Would have been early 90s, I imagine. So he obviously had a lot of talent, but the move to Brisbane was daunting, apparently.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys have talent and not make it. The move to Brisbane, it wasn't daunting. It's just I was out of my comfort zone, and I was experiencing a world that I didn't know, I wasn't prepared for, and it took me a while to get used to that sort of lifestyle, and it took me a while to realise what I wanted in life. And I was quite a late bloomer. Maybe at under 16s and under 13s I had the skills and technical side, but I wasn't, I didn't play for Australia until I was 22 years of age. That's quite late these days. It doesn't matter where you are around the world. So it took me a while between that 16 to 22, those 6 years of moving from Rockhampton, maturing as a player, as a person, mentally and physically being ready to do what I wanted to do. Saying that, I think missing out on teams and missing out on AIS selection back in 2000 when the coaches changed, get other people getting to play for Australia before me, who I believed I was as good as, if not better than, sort of helped me and sort of drove me to my career, to what happened. So it was hard. It's not, it's not easy. If you want something, you want to be good at it. It's not easy, but I learned and I was patient, and eventually my time came.
And 22, as you say, is a late time, and there was no. Did you see people kind of getting picked ahead of you, and was that discouraging at all?
Yes, people were getting picked ahead of me. Rob Hammond made the team before me in some camps. Craig Victory went to the Olympics in 2000. Lachlan Vivian Taylor was a young guy from Melbourne who was a couple of years younger than me getting to go. He went to 98 Commonwealth Games, and all these guys, I'm like, oh, come on, I'm as good as these guys. I wasn't courageous enough to go up and have a chat to the coach and say, hey, what do I need to do to be better? I was a bit immature in that sense, coming from Rockhampton. I hadn't had those critical conversations before. So I wish now I'd had said or asked the question, what do I need to do? How do I need to be better? And maybe they could have given me some advice which could have fast-tracked that process.
Was there a moment, you reckon, where you figured it out?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't a moment where I figured it out. I remember chatting to Paul Godoy. He said, look, you just got to go up and ask him. He was one of the captains or leaders in the Australian team at that time. He goes, go ask him. You had amazing skills. Jason Duff said it as well. Like, you're as good as these guys. Why aren't you getting to go? I said, I don't know. We'll go ask them. And I didn't. And then Terry Walsh got sacked after 2000 Olympics, and Barry Dancer came in as head coach. There was one time where, because this whole period I had no idea I was still going to play for Australia. I thought I could easily go home, because after 2000, when Barry Dancer came in, I wasn't in the Australian Institute of Sport. They kicked me out of the Institute of Sport, so I'm like, okay, I'll stay in Perth and give it a crack. So this whole time I had no idea. It wasn't probably 99 was the one time when I was overseas on an AIS tour where Colin Batch said to me, we had a one-on-one meeting, and Colin Batch said, one day you'll play for Australia. And I was like, oh, someone's finally said it, because it just seems so, it seemed like I had a long way to go, or if I'd ever get there. But he said, one day you'll play for Australia. So that gave me a lot of confidence, even though I had some ups and downs after that. It gave me confidence that one day I'd hopefully play for Australia.
And then the call-up came in 2001. Where was that? What was that?
That was Australian Hockey League. Barry Dancer came up to me and said, congratulations, you're in the squad and you're going to the Menin Cup, I think it was, the Ocean Cup, in Melbourne to play your first game. And I was over the moon. And I thought, okay, this is awesome. Finally, I get a chance. And I knew my chance, hopefully, if it wasn't then, it was going to be never. So he gave me that chance, and I remember going to Melbourne and getting my shirt presented to me from David Wansborough, who I'm good mates with now and looked up to back when he was vice captain and playing for the Australian team. And he gave me the shirt and I didn't put it on. I was like, all right, just wait till tomorrow. And once I put it on, I thought, there's no looking back. I'm just going to have to go for this and give this opportunity 100%.
Because it was a different time back then as well. Like now, the Kookaburras have a squad of 27 and it rotates quite regularly. A lot of the squad will play, all of the squad probably will play a game a year, whereas back then it was run a little differently, and there weren't the rotations on field either, were there?
Completely different. The game's changed so much. You're right. There was, I think, 24 in the squad. There were 16 guys that went away to most tournaments, and if you might get one or two that might change. So times have changed. It was different back then. Maybe now, if I come into the era now, if I'm 20, 21, 22, maybe I would have an opportunity. But back then it was a little bit harder to get a gig straight up. But it took me a while, like I said, but once I got there, I wanted to make every post a winner.
Yeah, sure. We're going to break Jim off there to throw back to one of his Athens teammates, Mick McCann. Ripper of an ep. Check it out. And you scored a lot of goals as a kid. I mean, you're a prolific goal scorer as an Australian player, but also in AHL for New South Wales. There is a little nugget of information I found online that apparently you had the nickname 10 cents. Is that true? And what is that about? Tell me about that.
Yeah, my auntie used to give me 10 cents for every goal that I scored.
Okay.
So I said, all right, I said, I'll score 100 goals this year for you. I think it was under 11s or something like that. And I scored 119 goals in 10 games or something like this.
That's
and then after that, she said, that's it. There's no more 10 cents for you anymore. But she continued until I was about 15 or 16.
Oh, seriously? 10 cents every goal. Jeez, quite a nice little nest egg there. Yeah. Where did it go?
I would spend on lollies or something.
Was it you'd play 11s, 13s, 15s? Did you play in multiple teams growing up, or?
Sure. I mean, we under 11. We had a great coach, Laurie Frost. He wanted. I mean, in Germany it's different. You can't play men's hockey until you're 16 and 4 months.
Mm-hmm. Very precise.
In Sydney, our under 13 team played as the 5th men's team as well. So we'd play under 13s. Some of us would then go to under 15s or under 17s. And then we'd play with the 5th men's team at 12 years old, and we used to get thumped by these old guys out of North Sydney or something, just these little kids, bomb. We used to win most of the time, mind you. But by the time we were 13, 14, I played my first game with the men's team. I think I might have, before I was 15, I think, with Bankstown. But you'd play 2-3 games every week, every Saturday, 2 or 3 full matches. Now we talk about putting too much pressure on the kids or too much sport with the kids where they play a game and you got to make sure they rotate and all that kind of stuff. Different world.
Different world back then. More of that way back in episode 7 of The Help Side. But now let's get back to Jamie, who's about to talk through his thoughts on how hockey has changed over the course of his career and some of his most memorable one-on-one matchups. Let's go. Let's change tack real quick. Let's talk about rule changes, because you played hockey for Australia for a long time and you were in and around it for 17 years, 18 years, 17 years. You've seen a few rule changes in your time. Any that you like, any that you don't like, any that you'd change?
I must admit, I like them all.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that the game now looks much better, much more entertaining than what it was probably 20 years ago, especially. So the backstick passing, the backstick shot that's come into it is brilliant. The overheads, I think that's great. Stick above the shoulder, I think it's a good one. Probably the favourite would be the self pass rule. I just think that just adds flow to the game. One thing I would like to change now is the interchange. I would like to see there be a certain amount of interchanges, not on off, which would be a little bit more strategic, I guess, for teams and for coaches to try and adapt to that, and it would leave the best players on the field a little bit longer and get people more fatigued, because at the moment they're on and off so much, it's hard for people to get really fatigued, because once you're fatigued you come off and you've got a couple of minutes. Back 15 years, 16 years ago, if I was one-on-one with the player, that was my advantage if I was fitter, because I knew he was going to get fatigued and that was the time to pounce, to attack. But it was a grind, so it was that one-on-one battle for the whole game, which I really enjoyed. And that's one aspect I don't see in this day and age, is a great one-on-one battle between two awesome players, like you see, I guess, in basketball and other sports. So that's one thing I miss, but overall I have to give credit to the people who have changed the rules. I really enjoy watching hockey these days, and it's much different and much more entertaining than what it was 15 years ago.
Are there any very memorable one-on-one battles that you enjoyed over the years?
Well, for me personally, a couple against Turnenoya, Bjorn Emmerling, who I rate as probably the best player nearly I've ever played against, a German guy. I remember watching Michael Green and Turnenoya go at it. Michael Green won 2002 Best Player in the World from Germany, and Turnenoya won it, I think, 2003-04, and those two just 70 minutes against each other. It's just, I just couldn't not look at those two, just the whole game. Where the ball was somewhere else, I'd just watch them and watch what they did. Those ones stand out to me, but there's many more that, probably I could think of.
And when the backstick, or the tomahawk as it's known now, I think, came in, the interesting thing is that nowadays you have all the kids practicing it from when they're 3 or since they pick up a hockey stick, because it's a cool shot, goes hard. Did you have to learn that?
I was one of the first ones who was practicing it more often than not. And because I saw it in Queensland, a guy there called Troy Marsh, who's from Warwick, did it on grass. I was like, well, that's so cool. So I went and practiced it. The coaches didn't like it. And I remember coming here in 2000, my first training with the whole 2004 squad. 2000 squad. Stephen Davies, who was like the most capped and most recognised striker. My first shot, I went in, it was a flow-through drill, and I did a tomahawk. He's like, what are you doing? Don't do tomahawk yet, just start to, hit the ball properly. I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't do a tomahawk for a while, it gave me a couple of weeks. But I hit it sweet too, it went in. It wasn't like a bad shot, but he was yelling at me, telling me not to do tomahawk. So even from 20 years ago with the Kookaburras, the attitude to what it is now and what the game is now is completely different.
Upright backstick is much more reliable.
Yeah, and it's such an easier skill to play.
2002, you were, I think it's fair to say that from your debut, your career just rocketed, really. 2002, you were World Young Player of the Year. And then from there to retirement, there were 5 World Player of the Year titles, which is unmatched, I believe. What was that progression like? Did you feel like your progression was on that similar trajectory, or do you feel like you were always as good, just getting the recognition?
No, it improved a lot. As soon as I put on the Australian shirt for the first time, like I said to you, I wanted to make every post a winner. I went hard in the gym, I got fit, and then the first couple of years it was just great. I was just had no I just went out there and played hockey, and I just felt free, and I could do it. No one knew who I was. They didn't know my skills. I knew them. I knew when I played against Brian Lomans or these other Dutch guys. I knew what they were good at. They had no idea who I was. So I would go out there and just go for it, and just a confidence about me that just felt, just great. I just kept getting better and better, and 2002, like you said, was a great year. I think I played about 32 games that year and scored 20-something goals, and we won the Commonwealth Games, which I hit a hat-trick in the final, the World Cup semi against Holland, I hit a couple of goals. So I just had a lot of confidence through that whole year with my body, my skills, my game, everything. Like, I had nothing to lose. I've been waiting this my whole life, and I was just going out there, enjoying it and getting better. So that was the first, I guess, couple of years of my career. And then 2003, I went over to Sydney and we got super, super fit. There's a bunch of guys, myself, Brent Livermore, Mick McCann, Adam Commons, Scott Webster, a couple others, and we trained really hard. And I went from a 15 on the beat test to a 16.4. I went from 5:30 on seconds on the 40-metre sprint to 5:10. My body was like ready to go. And then I got injured, unfortunately, in the lead up to Athens Olympics. I did my ACL. And then coming back from that ACL, I had some times where I thought I wasn't going to make the Olympics because I was terrible. I couldn't play hockey that as good as what I could. I didn't have confidence in my body. But leading into 2004, once I got my body right, which was seriously, it was at the Olympics. I remember at the Olympic Games, my knee swelled up again. I was like, oh God, what's going on? I was getting acupuncture and everything, and I thought, I've just got to go for it. And, I can't hold back. So went into that 2004 Olympics just with the same attitude as probably what I had in 2001, 2002. Just go for it and see what happens. And I had 100% trust in my teammates and my coach, and I think they had trust in me as well. It was a good journey. But my career from the first 4 or 5 years of really just going for it, getting fit, seeing, just had no worries in the world, to 2005, after I had been named best player in the world, to probably 2012 was a period where I'd had to change because the rules would change, so we had different coaches. I sort of kept improving and kept pushing the boundaries from after 2012 to 2016, where I had to manage my body and manage my workload, manage my balance with my family. It was a lot harder. It wasn't as enjoyable, definitely, because some days I couldn't do what I could do 10 years ago. But on the other hand, I still felt like I could contribute to the Australian team, and that's why I kept playing. It was a different journey throughout those 16 years, and had a lot of ups and downs. Early on is definitely much easier than at the later part of my career.
That time in Sydney, what did you go? Because we spoke to Mick McCann about it, obviously, in an earlier episode, and it seems quite it hasn't really been done since, and I don't know if it'd been done before that. Why'd you do it?
I'd been in Perth for 3 or 4 years, and I'd established myself in the Australian men's team, I thought anyway. So this opportunity came up to work at the Sydney Harbour Foreshore Authority for myself and Brent Livermore. And Brent, for me, was the ultimate professional. Everything he did was to make himself a better player. And I trusted, because he went, and I trusted him that, okay, I'll go as well and do what Brent does. It was just for 2 or 3 years, just to get out of the Perth bubble. It was a bit of a gamble, I must admit, because it could have went either way. I could have went there and I could have not improved, and I could have just sort of plateaued a little bit with my hockey career. Hockey for me was still the number one priority. I put pretty much everything else on hold between 2001 or earlier than that, 1997 to 2014, pretty much. Hockey was everything to me. So it was still my number one priority, but we trained really hard. Like I remember one training, Brent said, "Let's go for a run after training." And we just trained really hard. And now with 5-6 guys, we had Larry McIntosh, the coach. He was all for it. Like we just had a really good energy about us. And Brent said, "Let's go for a run." I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's go for a run." And we went for a 30-minute run around Sydney Olympic Park, and it was pretty slow. It was just a nice job. Next training, should we do a run again? All right, yeah, let's go for a run. And then it just got a little bit quicker. And then after about 2 months, we were sprinting for half an hour around Olympic Park, and then we were doing 20 hill sprints at the end as well. And so no wonder our beep test went from 15 to high 16s. When I first came over in 2001, I think my beep test was 13 something. And then, obviously, we did the testing results, and all the New South Wales people living in New South Wales were getting high beep tests and fast, and all the Perth guys were like, "Nah, this is not true, you guys are cheating, blah, blah, blah." So then it became a bit of a competition between the New South Wales guys and the WA guys. And we had Brent, myself, Mick, Adam Commons, Scotty Webster. We were good players, but then they could see just by looking at us, like they go, "Wow, you've actually, your body's changed, you're looking fit." So then it sort of spread on to the rest of the group, and we sort of created a culture there for a while that let's work really hard and be the fittest team in the world and see what happens. And it worked out all right.
How'd you get faster? Because I think that's something that a lot of people would be interested in.
We did sprint training, which is something now. A young guy asked me what he needs to do to improve. And I said, do sprint training. Don't do it on the front of a hockey session or on the back of a hockey session. Just go and do 2 sprint trainings a week now while there's not too much hockey on. So we did it in Sydney. We did sleds, we did quick feet with ladder work. We did the gym program to make us a little bit faster, and we all got faster. Even Mick McCann, who's one of those last guys in world hockey, become pretty electric in the end. So it's just good with that. And Brent led it. He's like, "All right, we've got to do this. Let's do sprint training." So we were just, let's do it. Then there was a month or 2 months. Let's do boxing. So we did boxing, and we just absolutely walk out of boxing, couldn't move. I could hardly drive home. My arms were shaking. So those little things, which Brent led and Mick and myself sort of just latched on and like, let's do this. Really, it made me have a physical standard for the rest of my career, and that was harder when I got the last 3 or 4 years to get to that standard, but it was manageable. So thanks to those guys and the coach Larry, who sort of got me in that a level which I never thought I would be able to get to, which helped me mentally, which helped me on the field, which helped in more ways than just being a fit person.
Is that a time that you've drawn on since?
I mean, those couple of years I'll always remember, and I always learnt so much. When you're in small groups like that, it's a little bit different to training here in Perth, where you've got 24, 27 guys. You hardly see them or speak to them during training. These guys you speak to and see the whole time. So we've got that special bond from that group back then. And I draw on a little bit. Like I said, I keep learning, and that period was a huge learning curve for me.
Okay, we're going to go to 2004 because we have to. Olympic year, as you said, you came back with a sore knee, and it sounds like you just decided to let the worry and the doubt go. Once you got there, you were there, you couldn't do anything else. That was as good as you were going to get at the time. But I want to talk about returning from major injuries, because that's something that a lot of elite players, they've got to do it. Even club players and everything. You at the top of your game, all of a sudden you have this horrific 10, 12-month injury, and you come back and you're not as good as what you were then. But perhaps your expectations were that you would be as good. I'm not sure. Do you remember how you actually got yourself over the hump of because you had a brilliant, I think you were World Player of the Year in 2004, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I wasn't very good in 2004 because I was coming back from injury, but I was good at the Olympics, and that's probably why I won that tournament. But I'll start from the start. I did the ACL in 2003 against Pakistan, first game of the Champions Trophy. Come out, had a bit of a tangle with the keeper, came off first 5 minutes of the Champions Trophy. And this was when I was feeling really good. Came off, the doctor said, "Oh, you've done your ACL, you're out for a year." And I was doing the maths, and I was thinking, well, it's less than a year to go to the Olympics, so this could be, I could be in trouble. And then they said, "Oh, look, you're going to get this done, you're probably not going to be as fit, as fast, you're not going to be as good as what you probably were the last couple of years." And I was like, "Oh, that's no good." So had the operation done in Brisbane, went home to Rockhampton for a couple of weeks, and I was pretty down. I couldn't move around, I couldn't play sport. The Aussie guys were in New Zealand playing hockey, I wanted to be there. And that was probably the hardest time, was after the operation. Then once I got out of it, 3 months, after 3 months I wanted to get into it. So I had a lot of help with the New South Wales Institute of Sport, the physios there, giving me a program, a lot of one-legged weights and sliding, just to get that stability, a little bit of running on the field. And I just built up a little bit of confidence every week. I had this really top program, which I was 100% confident with. And then I came over to Perth earlier in 2004 than the rest of the group, because they wanted to see me here, see how I was going. I had the physio here take me down to the beach. I'd do a lot of beach running, and mentally, you feel down some days, and then some days you're up, depending on how your knee felt. I think the biggest thing I learned out of that whole situation, that whole injury, was to read my body and to just listen to your body. Some days my knee wasn't good, and I had to just back off a little bit. Some days it felt good, so I could push it a little bit more. But over those 6, 7, 8 months, I was coming back, playing a little bit of hockey after 6 months, 7 months. Played hockey for the Australian team after about 8 months. Like I said, I was terrible. Didn't think I'd make the Olympics, and then thankfully got the phone call that I was in the team. And then it was still giving me problems when I got the phone call. I was in Rockhampton because we had a week off. I went back home and I was with my dad. We were out in the driving range, and I couldn't even hit the golf ball. He said, "What's the matter?" I said, "My knee's too sore." And he said, "Oh, okay, let's just go home and just rest it for 3 or 4 days." So I went home, rested. This is a month before the Olympics, or maybe a month and a half. So I was really I don't know, or maybe I should not go or see how it goes. But it wasn't until I got over there and trained well, still was swelling, but had some acupuncture, had a lot of work on it, did everything I possibly could to get my body right and my knee right, and everything just fell into place, and had a really good first game where I hit 3 goals in the first game against New Zealand, and then just confidence came on, and I took it on.
How important do you reckon is confidence? Were you a confidence player? Because you look at your career and you're kind of like a hallmark. You're consistent, incredibly consistent. So it's interesting to hear about players who are so consistent to also talk about how confidence can kind of impact the game. But it's everywhere. People are always talking about confidence. What's your take?
Yeah, I think if you have confidence, it's a great thing. But you are the only one who can believe in that confidence. You can go out there and go, "Yeah, I'm going to win, I'm feeling really good," but deep down, you've got to trust what you're saying is the truth. And to do that, you need to work hard, and mentally and physically, so you're in your best shape possible. Then you do have confidence, and that's why I had confidence for most of my career, was because I was physically and mentally ready to go. And if I got beaten, so be it. I got beaten by a better player or a better team. But at least I was at my best, and that's what made me play well, was when I knew I was at my best, and you go out there and give it a crack, and you never know what's going to happen. But so that confidence is very, very important. And earlier on in my career, I had bundles of it because I was younger, just had no worries in the world. I had so much confidence, and maybe that helped my game. The older I get, the less confidence because you start questioning yourself, your body, your preparation, but still you got to be able to manage it and make sure that you go out there and do what you can do. But confidence for Australians is I think important. You need to have that confidence bordering on arrogance. And if you're, like the Americans, they've got too much of it. Like they all think they're the world's greatest and they're going to win everything. But they go out there and perform well when it counts. So I think as Australians, I wish our team and our individuals probably had more of it, but real confidence, not just saying it, actually believing it. And that was one difference in the teams that I've been involved in that have had success to the teams that haven't had success, is that, like, in 2004, we had this, like, confidence, very quiet confidence. We didn't tell anyone, but we all believed, like, we've got a good chance here. And same in 2014 at the World Cup. I remember Mark Knowles coming into my room and saying, "Oh, what do you reckon?" I said, "Mate, we're looking really good. Like, we are, everyone's performing well. The confidence is up. Let's just keep riding the train until we win the gold medal." So, which we did. So I think that confidence is a key, but you need to prepare it and build it personally.
And to get confidence in a team, does it require everyone to be like? How do you kind of get that critical mass of confidence in the team? Does it start with the individual, or is it the coaching staff, or what happens?
A bit of both. I think you got to be realistic. And if I see someone at training and they're confident, they're up and about, and they're going for it, I sort of feed off that. And I go, okay, let's do this. And similar to back to the Sydney 2002, 2003, 4 when I was living there. Like, I saw Brent and he had confidence, then Mick, and then I sort of relished off that, and it sort of got ingrained in me. So I reckon, it starts with individuals and then builds its way up, and then you sort of get this culture where you're confident because you believe that your mate's done the work, you've done the work, your coaches can see it, so you can hear it in their voice when they're doing the team talk, that they can give it to you. And then that just builds you up even more to go out there and perform to your peak. And and you can feel the difference when it's not there, and vice versa, when there's no confidence. And I've been in a few teams like that, which you sort of want to come across as confident, but you actually don't believe what you're saying or what your teammates or your coaches are saying. So it's a fine-tuning thing, and something that I need to, if I do ever become a coach, I need to try and manage as best I can.
Do you know how to, like in those teams where you don't really feel it, is it possible to change that?
Looking back now, maybe. Maybe there is. But at that time, I didn't know. And I wish I said different things in different situations when we weren't as confident as what we were. Every situation is different, every team's different, all the personalities are different, so you need to manage it as best you can. But as an individual, I think if you work hard and you prepare the best you can and you come off with a great attitude and you're presenting a little bit of confidence, real confidence, I think that'll feed off the team and into the coaches as well.
2004, it wasn't a win everything, win the gold medal, perfect fairy tale year. I mean, you had setbacks, you had really close games, especially in the Olympics, incredibly close. Like, it was hanging by an absolute thread at times. In a confident team, can those setbacks or close calls, do they feed into your confidence, into the confidence of the team, or can they actually detract from the confidence of the team? Like, how do you take those setbacks, basically?
We had a lot of setbacks in 2004. We had a draw against Argentina in our second game. We had a very close game against India where we scored in the last couple of seconds. We had fighting in the team. We had press saying stuff about us back home in Australia. There were a lot of... I was in tears one day when this article came out, and I was just so angry at Barry for who said it, the coach, and like there was a lot of ups and downs. But one thing we did do when you have those confident people, those people who are outspoken, and like we sorted it out very quickly, and we just laid it all on the table. So there was no hiding, and that could have been the worst thing if we just said no, everything's okay. We didn't talk about it, and there was a problem. We spoke about it. It got worse, and then we spoke about it again, and we sorted it out pretty quickly. So within 2 days of everyone disagreeing with each other, and me and who else was there? I think Michael Brennan and a few of us, Mick even, I think were named in the papers about being arrogant or un-Australian or something. And then my granddad ringing me up and telling me about it when I was over there, it hurt and sort of hit home. But I think because we had those personalities in the team, that, all right, let's sort this out. And it was bloke to bloke, like we just got through it. Barry apologised to me. He apologised to a few people. He apologised to the team. We saw, Barry wears his heart on his sleeve. We sort of knew that he made a mistake and he was sorry. And then as soon as we saw that, all right, let's get on. Let's get on with it. But that's, being a coach in that pressure situation, everyone makes mistakes. I made a mistake. Barry made a mistake, and then it sort of tumbles down from there. But we got over it, and that's because of what we had created and built over the previous 3 years coming into that tournament. And we were, maybe now, because the group's got 27, 30 people in it, and we're not as connected, or connected but in a different sort of vibe, because we had that just bunch of guys who just said, okay, this is it, this is what's going on. We said, okay, let's do it. So yeah, it was a challenging time at the Olympics. It all worked out in the end. But something that's happened throughout my whole career. Like, there's been ups and downs, and it's going to happen through your career. It's going to happen through anyone's career. You're going to have these awesome moments. You're going to have challenging times. You're going to have times where you feel like retiring or quitting or chucking it in, whether it's injury or fights with the coach or whatever. But you got to show that resilience to get through it, and your mates got to help you out, and you got to help your mates out. And the important thing is the communication needs to be really spot on, and you've got to 100% trust your coach and your players around you. And that's what I had. I had Brent Livermore, Mark Hickman, Mick McCann, Rolsey, Troy Elder, all of them I could lean on, and we all leant on each other. And then we had the leader, Barry, sort of guiding us and helping us along the way.
That's it for part A. Stay tuned for part B of The Help Side with Jamie Dwyer. We'll see you soon.